how many of you follow netball?
Netball.
No? How many of you follow NRL?
Yes.
Okay. How many of you follow soccer? Now, I just wanted to tell you to come to the sideline, if you like, to come forward, because you might not see my slides. Yeah? So if you like to, you can come forward, yeah? Sorry, my dry sense of humor. Yeah. So today I'm going to talk about BMS. I think I did a presentation on BMS probably about 4 years ago or 5 years ago. But we have had the privilege of doing a major upgrade, or we are doing a major upgrade right now, which was quite a big challenge with our owners, trying to get it over the line, and I'll tell you why in a minute. So I'll go through some slides first of all. Okay, so Intercontinental Sydney was a hotel built in 1985. Which had no BMS, no lighting controls, all manual. Everything was switched. Air conditioning was turned on. Totally dependent on us engineers. And subsequently in 1995, we installed a BMS, which was state of the art then. And we picked a BMS that came out of the UK. It was called Trend. Never installed in Australia. So we were the guinea pig, but I knew Trend from the UK because I was working on a project in the UK at the time. And because it was the one-off first installation, they did a really good installation. So from there, we kept tweaking the BMS to a point where it was due for replacement. Okay, so with this BMS replacement, first of all, primarily our expectations were to monitor and control the plant, optimize its maintenance. But what is your expectation of a BMS, or what do you think a BMS should be doing in this current era? Engineers, any?
Scheduling.
Pardon?
Scheduling.
Scheduling, okay. What else would you expect out of a BMS? Okay. I won't ask anymore. Sorry to put you on the spot. But, we are trying to take it to the next level. Okay, but my challenges that I had, okay, so primarily, we are controlling plant and equipment like everybody else does. Everybody else has got a BMS, chillers, cooling towers, boilers, got meters, lots of meters in there. All the meters have been all connected into the BMS. So we got real-time data on the hour, and we are trying to get the package all working correctly. Okay, so primarily our reason for the change of BMS was the end of life. Okay, then the restrictions that we had with the BMS. There were a lot of things that we wanted to do, but we couldn't do. Lack of control and monitoring. Alarms, we did a major upgrade. Last year I did the presentation. When they did a major upgrade, they cut the switch, they put a new switchboard, they cut all our alarms. The alarms were not compatible with the new system. So we were in a situation, depending on a guest telling us we don't have hot water, for us to go reactive. So, these were major challenges. So, we had put control measures like manual checking and all that. We had gone back to 1985, realistically. So, we had to do something about it. And a lot of the new equipment was not compatible with the BMS. So we went to the owner, we put a tender out, and it was quite interesting. When we put the tender out, we put a specification, and we wrote a design brief, and we got a consultant involved. Because it is very important, because we are not the subject matter experts. With new technology and all that stuff, we think we know it all, but there's a lot more that others can help us with. So we put a specification together, we went out to tender. It was quite interesting, and I'm not hiding anything, I'm disclosing the cost that we spent. We're spending $750,000, right, for this upgrade. When we went to tender, there was a company that came at $620,000. And no offense to corporate members, one of the checks that I was very insistent on doing is reference checks. And on doing the reference checks, we found that this particular company was traditionally very good at throwing variations after, and the site project team were very difficult to work with. And this was not from one person, but it came from many. So, automatically we discounted that company. Why do you want to take a problematic child on, right? And the company that we selected, it's GS Tech. You probably have seen their trucks around everywhere. They're doing an amazing job. Up to now, they have not thrown a single variation to us. They have come to us and said, by the way, we are not doing this, so we are giving you money back, on this component we are using. So I've never seen a company like, and the site team are amazing. They work they were apologizing to the chef today. I overheard it because he was running a cable. When the chef asked him, what are you doing here? But the chef had already told him the day before, yes, you can work at this time, but he had forgotten. So it is quite a pleasure, working with a team like that. So so this is kind of a little bit of a dashboard on what you can get. So it can give you a lot of information, but I'm not going into that detail. I'm going to touch on something else at the moment, because sorry, let's go back to the old slide. One of my challenges was the owner, the return on investment, because everybody thinks that you put a BMS and cha-ching, 15%. My calculation was 3%. The primary reason for changing the BMS was end of life. Okay, it was no longer possible. The next thing was, there was this thing the consultant called it the Andy factor. Sorry, I'm not bragging about anything, but I tweak the plant all the time. I play with it. I play with turning off chillers at 1 o'clock in the morning and checking whether we can go till 5. Outside the control strategies, right? And we get away. I have tested hot water systems, shutting the boiler at midnight and starting it up at 5 o'clock and keeping it on recovery to see what is the benefit. Because we have had lots of meters, we have been able to prove this is going to work or this is not. So once you get into automation, they're basically saying that the Andy factor goes and the consumption might go up in some areas. Right. So, and how we did it was, you put a BMS, another consultant went in, they said from the day the BMS is commissioned, 7% across the board next year. They went across. And I said, no, I challenged that, because there's a tuning process once you put in. In the first 3 months, you tune it. Then you find out other things with data, and then you start tuning it. And I said, after 6 months, I would probably see 5% coming back. And the owners could not accept it, because they're throwing capital. But, in my mind, if we get whatever over that, it's a bonus. It is, and, we are eliminating this human error, a human element of control. So I'm going to touch on something else now. I'm going to talk about showing you where our hotel has been, right, with the various consumptions. So the first one is looking at water. We were running about 12,000 units, 120,000 units a year, and we are now down to about 55, right? And this is an old slide, but I thought it is an interesting slide with our meters to show you what the breakdown for different areas are. So it is interesting because our guest rooms are the biggest users. And then came the laundry, but our laundry shut down now, so that's why I'm saying this slide is not relevant, but for Anura it might be. Then comes the gas. So gas as well, I have been trying to electrify as much as possible. I know Trevor got a great presentation done the last time about electrification, but what I did was mostly taking the steam plant out. So the steam plant has been shut down. So all our dishwashers, everything has been converted, and fortunately some of this is not savings from what we did, but we shut our laundry down as well. So that was what it is. But progressively we have been trending down. But I'm going to show you something very interesting with electricity. Okay, so we were a 9.4 gig building when we opened. Now we are down to just at the high end of 4 gig. So that's about 48% saving on electricity over the years, right? Now I'll show you something very interesting. This slide, I don't know whether you can see it, right? I'm showing you the consumptions on a monthly basis and taking 2006 as a base year. So we were at 9.41, right? And if you look, 2007 was even higher, 9.4. And we are down to 4.88 here. Now, 2024 is not complete, so that figure is not accurate. But when you look at it, and at the bottom is the savings, the bottom graph. The savings basically are, of course, calculated at the current energy figures. So it's about 22 point something cents a kilowatt hour that I've worked out. So realistically, the savings are not dollar-wise, might be different. But when you look at the annual savings, we have saved about $2.4 million. But in realistic terms, we have saved 16 million. You know why? It's compounded savings. It keeps adding and adding and adding. So that is a lot of savings, and any dollar you save in electricity goes straight down to the bottom line. There's no hidden any other costs involved. Yeah. So that is very important. So, as I said, I'm talking BMS, but I want to educate you on a few things that I have learned lately. I'm not sure how many of you look at your electricity bills on a monthly basis. We review our electricity bills monthly. And I'm not sure whether you have noticed that the current network has changed a lot. Okay? Earlier, we had a peak, off-peak, and shoulder. Right now, when you go to contract, you got a peak and off-peak, which is fine. That's the contracted rate. Now, as I have mentioned before, we buy electricity differently. Unlike a lot of others, we buy it on the spot market. Right? So we have had some gains, we have had some losses. If you have gone to contract recently and you got the pricing, I'm not sure whether you have noticed that off-peak has suddenly gone up in price. It is getting very close to peak because there is a surplus of electricity with all the solar panels and everything going. The price structure is changed. So that is what we have control over. But what I want to show you is what I found with network. So network is the second areas that I have highlighted. So they have two different network charges now. So there are different times of the year. Sorry, can you hear me? I'm going loud and soft. Yeah. There are two different times of the year where the network charges are changing. Have any of you noticed that on your bills? No. Okay. Because I'll just jump to the bottom. Can you see the bottom bit of the slide? So if you look at the bottom, from 3 p.m. to 9 p.m. is what network is now charging you for peak. But from 1st November to 31st March, that is the charge for network, right? Peak. Then you go from 3 p.m. to 9 p.m. From 1st June to August, it's only off peak. You don't have a network charge, peak. Does it make sense to you? So if you look at this bill, you see, there's only off-peak network charge. So when you're budgeting and all that stuff, it's very important to know that so that you can just identify the variances, yeah? So something just to educate you all on. So when you look at, you can get this off Osgrid, right? So most of you will be on a EA 310 tariff, right? EA 310 is low voltage, under 750 megawatt, and then you get all the rates that are published there so that you can get it off online. Okay, so with regards to the BMS, what we looked at is basically the time clock optimization stop-start, which everybody does, incorporating plant, so the major plant, boilers, chillers, dashboard of all other systems to be integrated. So we are looking now, we are putting the fire system on the dashboard. We are putting our Lutron lighting controls on the dashboard. We are bringing, what else? Dynalite lighting. So the idea is also to look at all the alarms and alerts so that you can get it on one platform and you can look. Now, if you go into view only, it's not that expensive to do. You just do a backnet integration and you can get it done. However, if you look at Dynalite and want to get control, you get about 20,000 points, and then it starts costing you, and then you start that finger pointing, where one guy says it's not my problem, it's the BMS problem. But it is very interesting because we have to get on this bandwagon, otherwise IT will start running. Brendan will take over and run our building for us. Yeah. So it is quite important that we all join and look at all the possible opportunities. So we're looking at controlling cooling tower on wet bulb, trend graphs, lead band. So these are basic common things. Then we are installing this system called Copper Tree, which is going to look at all our data and manage all the data. So Copper Tree will get all the meter data and everything, all the alarms, alerts, and all that stuff. But Copper Tree also is not only just looking at our building, but they have other buildings. So they can compare us to other buildings and say, this building similar to you is doing this. What is different? It's not a question of, you're better than me. It is sort of analyzing, constantly analyzing. And, we can look at a lot of different things, like, we are looking at once this, to set benchmarks, and also then kind of try to set alarms if the graphs, if the consumptions are trending the wrong way. So basically this is looking at the ICN. So these are all the things that will be connected to the ICN, like the meters and lighting and all that stuff. And then you have through the firewall you get Lutron, and then those are the end users. So these are quick snap slides. Okay, so this is kind of the real story. So the BMS being the central, and all these other peripheral systems, talking to it and giving us information that as a snapshot, you pick up your phone and you can look and you'll know what is going on or what is happening. So this is primarily the Copper Tree analysis, so that it will be constantly reviewing data, triggering any alarms, and showing us exactly what happens. Okay, and one of the biggest things is that this stuff that is left on, manual overrides and stuff like that. It will alert us in all that area. Yeah. So what I want to do is quickly try to dial into the BMS from here and see if I can give you a quick vision of the real story. Sorry, I just need to look at my password. Any questions so far?
Is the Copper Tree analysis through GS Tech as well?
It is no, it's not. It's not. Yeah. So I'm using a company called Delta Q, right? Delta Q as the consulting company, and they are helping me with Copper Tree.
On the Copper Tree, Andy, you mentioned that they collect data from other sources. Are they hotels, and are they then?
They have various sites, including hotels, I believe.
Yep.
And that's why we want to compare hotels, not with high-rise buildings and all that. Yeah, otherwise it's of no use to anybody. Yeah.
And the plan is that they would highlight like anomalies in your data, in theory.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah.
That is the idea. Or just to analyze and see what is going on. What is going on in a particular area. So we have. So this is typically a chilled water plant. Oop, what happened there? Why is it not coming on the screen? Why won't it show me on the screen? License violation has been detected. Who are the IT experts here? Brendan, what do you think?
You might be coming in from an unregistered IP address.
You think so?
Yeah.
No, that's not. It's
In theory, if it doesn't recognise.
Yeah?
Is that your laptop?
No.
Yeah. So, like,
No, he has logged in, but the screen is not there.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's coming in here, but I can't get it there.
Why is it doing that?
Okay, I'm sorry, I can't show it here. It's confidential. Here we got the expert here.
It's just about sharing the screen.
On this screen.
Press escape. Yeah,
Screen.
this one. No, it isn't
Oh,
called.
so for this one, round this way.
Yeah, yeah.
Where's the mouse?
No,
Mouse to go.
that's on that.
Like
That's on the other.
That extended view.
Sorry, gents. Small technical hitch.
Maybe the screen has been extended to something.
Yeah, extended.
What is that F7?
Okay.
Go to here, duplicate.
It's not touched.
It's not touched.
It's not letting in.
Your mouse. No.
Sorry, gents and ladies. Okay, it's that's okay. Don't worry about it. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, yeah. So,
Oh,
No, it's
there.
Oh.
2 secs.
duplicate.
there we go. No, that's not it. That's still going on to the presentation. Yeah.
Oh no. You want to go this way?
No. There we are. So, this is basically showing you a typical chill water plant. And, we are using some very interesting strategies. We are using variable chill water flow, based on demand. So, that will cut a lot of pump energy. We also have gone to York, the chiller, to see what is the minimum flow rates that you can allow across the chiller. So, there'll be some interesting savings there. Also, strategically looking at drifting the chill water temperatures depending on ambient conditions, etc. Now, the interesting thing is, I challenged our consultant because Lutron is a guest room control system. There's $40,000 to integrate Lutron fully functional onto the BMS. And I said, no, it's not worth it. All we need is alarms and alerts, that's all, on a dashboard. Because their original strategy was that they could cycle the chiller off or down based on guest room demand. I said, why? How can you do that? Because if there are 5 rooms calling for cooling, it's calling for cooling. The chiller will give you whatever set point chill water it gives you, and it will modulate. So you're not going to shut down the chiller. If there's a demand, you have to supply that demand. Yeah. So then they agreed and said that they are not going to put that in. So I'll just show you a few slides. On the cooling towers too, we're basically using one pump and drifting the water through all 3 towers, spreading it across. I would ideally like to run it through 2, but when we look at the heat rejection and all that, the energy savings are huge, by running it through across all 3 towers. Air handling units are, there's nothing special, but we had CO2 sensors on a lot of units, so we are incorporating them. This one has not got it yet, but this goes into a multiple zone. It's got 7 VAV units on it, so they run separately. So that is quite interesting. What are the other things that I can show you on the system? So we got the tanks. One of the things that I'm trying to do beyond this is now start to create areas looking at how much, for example, a kitchen is using, and also work out a bill to show them this is what your business is costing us, and to monthly give them some data saying this is the number of covers you did, this is the amount of energy used, what are you doing to save it. You take a simple business, you take a restaurant, right? In a hotel, they do not pay rent. They do not pay maintenance, right? They do not pay for energy, and still they don't make a profit. You know, you take the guy down the road who pays all these things, and they make money. So, you know, you have to make them aware and alert. You know, they go and smash a cupboard. Next thing they say, engineering hasn't fixed it. Find the culprit, penalize the culprit, charge the culprit, do whatever, right? You know, we had to change our mentality, you know, of being reactive, started rather than being proactive and getting people to fix issues, rather than, we have this bar upstairs on the roof. The floor, timber floor, very delicate, just gets scratched. So, just had the French polisher do the whole floor. 5 hours later, the floor is scratched. Fortunately, we have 208 cameras in the hotel. And you view it, and I went and quizzed. I was so annoyed. And when you go and view it, and you ask the question, the manager is sitting there. You look at it, the bloody manager is dragging this metal stools on its edge with a phone in the hand, and he's done it. So if he can't lead by example, what do you expect? So, you know, you have to blame and shame people. You have not to be scared, you know. We had to do that because at the end of the day, you might be the bad person, but the customer sees it otherwise. You know, and very often, corporate members, but contractors are the customer nowadays. When you call them, they tell you when they are going to come in. You know, you can't tell them, I want you here now. It's very difficult. You know, as your general manager said, it's very hard to get people because there's so much work out there. And when you get it, it costs you a lot of money too. So anyhow, that's the story about the building management system. I hope it has been beneficial. It has been interesting. Any questions from anybody? Yes?
Do you see an increase in requests for whether it's corporate clients or government bodies when they have a function or event or stay in a hotel to ask for the carbon footprint impact?
Very often, yes. And you know, the interesting thing with this is that we can do now neighbors audits and all automatically, monthly if you want, because the data is there. But you know, it's a very interesting question you asked, Andrew, because a lot of people ask you, you know, what are you doing? What is your sustainability policy? What is your carbon footprint, etc.? But at the end of the day, it's quite interesting to see whether decisions are based on that questionnaire, you know, to come have the business there. At the end of the day, the dollar figure still controls the thing. Because when you ask them, if you say no, they still will book if your number is right. But you know, more and more, you know, people are asking the question. Yeah, it's.
The challenges I've had was a lot of the systems in place, whether it's the DMS system or Opera self-check-in, they're not harmonized. You know what I mean? They're not the same network.
Yeah.
Everyone's got their own system, own software.
Correct.
So cash management system is not integrated to the DMS, so that you can't pull the data accurately. So what we do is we guess.
You know, the other thing with a good BMS is that you can start saving a lot of money on maintenance. You know, you can look at time-based maintenance, you know, to look at how much your unit has run. Now, you know, over Christmas and New Year, you know, functions go right down. Your ballroom unit might not be running, you know, for 3 months or 2 months, whatever. And if you got time-based scheduled maintenance, people come and look and say it's due for maintenance. But if it's not run the hours, you don't need it. Similarly, you know, I got filter monitoring, so before and after DP filters. So I can check on when the filters are bad to change the filters. So these are the little things that you can put in and tweak. But I know it's very hard to get capital costs, Trevor. You know the situation. You know, you don't. But you know, we were very fortunate, and I hope all of you have. You know, it's at the end of the day, you know, your relationship with your owner. You know, I have sort of over the years developed a very good relationship. When I go and ask for money and show a project, I tell them this is what you can achieve. And that's why I was very bold to say, I am not going to give you 15% return. I said, I can give you 5% after 6 months. That's what I can give you. And I got the consultant to analyze, and they back me up on it. So how a BMS works is they put it in, then under DLP and copper tree, they start looking at algorithms and they start tuning it. So then when they start tuning, they say, hey, there's an opportunity here. This is not good. This is good. You know, and they keep playing it. And then after about 6 months only, you will see that it's working really well. Yeah. So it is getting back to the relationship. So whenever we do a project, if it's an ROI project, I go back to the owner and basically say, yeah, this is the achievements. And I'm not shy of putting my hand up and saying, sorry, I didn't make the targets that I promised. So they, you know, it's about relationships. And first of all, it is very important when you're dealing with an owner that you make sure your general manager is in the loop, because you do not buy. The general manager, the CEO of our owners goes to the gym with me, and he pops questions to me in the morning, right? Hey, what do you think about this? I said, sorry, I know the answer, I'm not going to tell you. You know, because you have to be very careful, right? You don't put people under the bus, because, you know, so you have to be very sort of tactful. And yeah, anyhow, that's the end of the presentation. Any more questions, anybody?
Maybe I will ask 2 quick questions, maybe one question.
Yeah.
Your chill water delta T was just 3 degrees, but today what was the occupancy now?
100%. 100%. So, you know, the scenario at the moment is from last Friday, other than Sunday, we have been 100% every night, right? It is pretty deadly. And, you know, while you saw this has only been put in place probably about 2 weeks. So we are still tuning, you know, so it's not, the systems have been cut over and moved. Yesterday, and you know, it has been seamless. Yesterday, we cut over the hot water systems. So we lost hot water production for about 4 hours, and we had about 3 or 4 complaints because the water temperature drifted. So what you see here is not tuned yet, you know, so it is just shifted from A to B, and some of the strategies are not really in place. So the chilled water DP is about 3 degrees, yeah? So it should be a lot more, yeah. Okay, thank you very much for listening to me.